Hello, friends, and welcome back. This is part 2 of a multi-part coaching session with one of our coaches from the Teacher Career Transition Academy. So if you haven't listened to part 1, head back to our channel and check that out before listening in, because we're kicking off right where we left off. If you've already listened to part 1 with our coach, then let's dive in. I'm Lisa Harding, ex-EdTech CEO turned certified teacher career coach. It wasn't all that long ago that I was recruiting, interviewing, and hiring teachers for roles in corporate America. Teachers that ended up being some of my all-time best employees. Fast forward through my own career transition, where I left my role as CEO to become a stay-at-home mom, I now work with and empower teachers to transform their lives by turning their once distant career dreams into realities. In this podcast, I give you simple, actionable, step-by-step strategies to help you do the same. If you're a burnt-out teacher or simply need a change and you're looking to create a life you love, you're in the right place, friend. Let's get started.
Like I mentioned, the DISC assessment is the one that I use with my clients. It's really great for career management, and it does include a 40-page analysis. So it's pretty robust. Like, it has a lot of good information. And I think that DISC is great because it includes self-awareness. Again, 40-page report of your natural and adapted behavioral tendencies. It also helps you understand behavior of others to strengthen relationships and teamwork. It helps you improve your job interview skills, identify any gaps or pitfalls in your skill set so you know what you can be working on. And it also includes strategies to stay motivated, increase productivity, and fine-tune your interpersonal relationships. You can use DISC language when interviewing. So if you take the DISC assessment and you get that 40-page analysis, you can use bits and pieces of that analysis and extract it and use it while you're talking to your interviewer. This is just an example. This is a screenshot of one of my clients' DISC analysis. And your work style tendencies that you bring to a job, and it gives bullets. But I just wanted to use this as an example for language that you can use in an interview. So, for example, if you're somebody who's a really fast worker and you're like, yeah, I work quick, and that's a strength of mine. A way that you can frame that in a job interview is my pace of personal operation is faster than that of many people. And that's a really good way to explain it. If you're a really great delegator, you're good at delegating tasks. You can say in an interview, I'm able to delegate while maintaining control over activities within a project. So again, this just lends itself really well to job interviews and language you can use. Highly recommend the DISC if you haven't done it yet. Tip number 4 is to showcase your accomplishments. And in order to showcase your accomplishments, you first need to start by reflecting on what your accomplishments are. What have you achieved in the last 10 years of your career? Employee or people who are interviewing you are most interested in the most recent decade, the most recent 10 years of your career. So it's important to recognize yourself for what you've achieved. What have you achieved over the last 10 years? When you recognize yourself for these achievements, it builds your confidence going into interviews. And this is personal and professional accomplishments. There is a misconception that you can only talk about previous work experience in interviews, but it's okay to talk about personal accomplishments as well. So reflect on these accomplishments. I'm going to give a couple of examples. In terms of professional, an accomplishment might be that you developed and implemented a professional development workshop on autism spectrum disorder for 30 educators. That shows your leadership skills, organizational skills, presentation skills. For 30 educators, that's a huge accomplishment. So that's just an example of a professional accomplishment. And then there's a personal accomplishment right here. And that's served on Junior League fundraising committee and single-handedly raised $30,000 for an annual fundraising event. So if you're part of any networking groups or any, whether it's social networking, community service, volunteerism, don't be shy about bragging on those accomplishments as well that are personal. Once you've had a chance to reflect on your accomplishments, I think it's important to also document your work achievements. Track those accomplishments. I recommend having a written record of your contributions. And again, keep these in a Google Doc as a living document that you can continuously add on to. So document your work achievements, document the things that you've done really well. Quantify them if possible. As teachers, I know you guys are probably really great with data and tracking data analysis. If you can quantify your success, that's best. Examples of things that you're going to want to track are projects you've completed, goals you've achieved, even challenges that you've overcome, expectations exceeded. These are just examples of achievements that you might want to track. And I think of this as evidence of excellence. This is a list that you can use as evidence of your success, as evidence of your achievements. In order to use that log of achievements, once you have it, think about which of these are applicable to a new position. When you look at what you've achieved in your career so far or your personal life so far, how are they applicable to a new position? Think about, do they align with the job description? The job description tells you everything you need to know about what the interviewer is looking for. So if one of your achievements matches the job description, that would be great to bring up in a job interview. It also demonstrates your success. It shows that you're a successful person, that you have accomplished things. And it also provides accurate information to employers. It's a record of your achievements for reference. And you can also use that to update portions of your resume or LinkedIn. When you have a list of all of your achievements, you can use those on your resume or on LinkedIn just to highlight everything. When you go into your interview, it's important to tell stories about your achievements. So explain your achievements and your accomplishments in story format. People love stories. A story has several benefits. First, it illustrates your point. It makes it so people can paint a picture in their mind of what you were doing, what the situation was, and they can actually see it come to life. So a story illustrates your point. It also has an emotional resonance because let's face it, people make decisions based on emotion. And when you tell a story, it just elicits that emotional response. So if you can tell your achievements in a story format, it just has that emotional level to it. And also, stories stick to the brain. They're just more memorable. People are going to remember stories over facts and numbers. So you can weave in facts and numbers to your story. And in fact, you should. But if you can think about telling a story, whether it's a problem solution format, or here's where I started my school year and here's where I ended it, and you talk about the progress and the achievements, tell it in story form. Tip number 5 to showing up for a job interview with confidence is to use corporate language and jargon, being able to speak their language. And when I say speak the language, the number one thing you can do is look at the job description. That has all the information you need to know. And I actually recommend printing out the job description. And if you're on a Zoom interview, have the job interview description or the job description in front of you and weave in some of that language as you're speaking to the person who's interviewing you. Scan the job description for keywords or phrases that you're noticing are coming up multiple times. These are likely words or phrases that would be really great for you to use while you're talking to them. You can also inspect the company website for buzzwords. I especially like to do this in the About Us section of the company website. Just look at some of those buzzwords that come up time and time again. Look at the language that they're using. And if you can just take that language and weave it into your responses, you're going to be able to show them that you speak their language, that you can use that corporate jargon. So weave these into your responses and speak to it. I'm going to show you an example specifically of how to do this. This is a job that I found on LinkedIn for a human resources generalist position. And it's just a job description that I found. And it gives kind of a high level overview of about the role, but then it also gives the specific job description. And this is the job description where it says how you'll spend your time. And I noticed that in every single bullet point, the word partner was coming up. And that started just sending off alarm bells in my mind that being able to partner and talk about partnering is really important to this company. So that would let you know, that's a cue that in your job interview, you should be ready to speak about your experience partnering with others and to actually use the word partner, which is great because as an educator, I'm sure you've partnered with all sorts of people. This just job description specifically mentions partnering with management. It says partner with management, partnerships with managers. partner closely with the chief people officer and finance team to manage. So specifically, it wants someone who can partner with management. Now, in corporate world, management is what you say, but the equivalent in the education system is your administration. Those are the people who are managing. So have examples ready to talk about partnering with administration for the success of others in your organization, your school, and have those examples ready and say, talk about what a great partner you are, particularly when it comes to partnering with management, which is your administration. Another keyword that I noticed that came up several times just in the first few bullets was team. And that I thought was another really good one because, again, as teachers, you work on a team pretty much all of the time. And I noticed that it was just coming up time and time again. So that means you should be ready to speak about your experience working with different teams in the job interview. So in the school setting, there's professional learning communities, there's grade level teams, the IEP team. If you're on the professional development committee or any other committees, think about the teams that you are on, because that's something that they're going to want to see. One thing that you'll see on a lot of corporate job descriptions is the word cross-functional, which means from different areas of an organization. That might mean that they want you to work with the finance team, as well as the marketing team, as well as the legal team. So that just means from different areas. As a teacher, you guys have all done that. So you can use this language. You can talk about cross-functional team communication. Have examples ready to talk about your role in supporting the growth and development of teams. So once again, all I did was extract some of the most common keywords in the language that they used and applied it to how it could be relevant from your experience, so you can speak to that during the interview. All right, I'm leaving you guys with a bonus tip.
Today's episode is sponsored by the Teacher Career Transition Academy. Are you eager to explore new possibilities but find yourself unsure of where to start? Look no further than our Teacher Career Directory. Available for free, this comprehensive resource features over 200 careers tailored for transitioning teachers. Dive into detailed insights, including average U.S. salary ranges, occupational outlooks, and even a personalized skills and interests inventory. Download now at teachercareertransitionacademy.com/directory. I'll also drop the link in the show notes of this episode. So don't miss out and claim your free directory today at teachercareertransitionacademy.com/directory.
This is not a job interview tip, but I think it's important enough that it's worth including tonight. And the bonus tip is you have to network if you want to get work. 85% of new jobs are landed through networking, which means somebody that you know makes an introduction or vouches for you. 85% of new jobs. So in terms of networking, your professional and your personal network really matter. Think about who are the people in your life that help you achieve big results. Your friends, your family, your coworkers, the people that you know. Most great opportunities in your life, including job opportunities, will be generated through your network. When you're looking for a new position, you can't be a secret agent. You can't keep that a secret. You have to let the people, your people know that you're looking for a new opportunity. The best way to do this through networking is to look for different networking groups and events and opportunities, either with people you already know or if you want to expand your network. And when you go to these people, you need to explicitly ask for recommendations, introductions, and referrals. You can't just show up. You have to ask for introductions or recommendations, people in the field that you're trying to break into. I think it's wise to attend virtual and in-person job fairs. Career fairs are still a thing. And if you can find some in the field that you're looking for, that's worth your time. And then always follow up. I think the biggest mistake that I see people make when they network is they go to these events, but they don't follow up to ask for the recommendations or introductions. A lot of business cards end up in the trash. I think it would be wise to follow up with everyone that you meet in terms of networking. So wrapping up here, just to summarize, I'm going to go through each of the 5 tips, and you'll be able to ask me some questions if you have them about any of them specifically. But number 1 was to assemble your personal board of directors. Number 2 was that preparation leads to confidence. Number 3 is identify your marketable skills and strengths. Number 4, showcase your accomplishments. Number 5 is use corporate language and jargon. And then it's not up here, but my bonus tip was you have to network if you want to get work. So again, I want to encourage you guys to stop and write. What is one takeaway, aha moment, or action step from today's presentation that you can take and implement in the next 3 days, that you can take and do right away? Maybe it's creating your elevator pitch, your story. Maybe it's assembling your personal board of directors. Maybe it's drafting your skills list or signing up for a networking event. But write that down and then also drop it in the chat, because I want to hear what you guys got from this. I want to hear what that one most important action step is that you can take in the next 3 days. Do your homework. Yep, preparation. Thanks, Andrea. So write those down and then drop it in the chat. Just one action step you can take in the next 3 days. Grow your network. Yep. Taking the DISC assessment. Yes, Lindsay. Is anyone going to create a personal board of directors? Reach out to the people that you know that you want to serve on your board of directors. Okay, Pamela is going to preparation, highlight the themes or related vocabulary and job descriptions, and use that language in interview examples. Great. Layla, you're going to develop your story. Excellent. These are all so great. Keep them coming, guys. I am going to tell you a bit about Shattered Glass Coaching, my business. I'm a life and career coach who works with professional women to show up with confidence and take control of their career. And I coach job seekers, company leaders, working moms, new business owners, and driven women determined to exceed their inner potential. And since you guys are on this call tonight, you are invited to participate in a free 45-minute breakthrough session with me if you'd like. We would basically dive into these topics a little bit deeper in terms of your career transition. So I will drop this link in the chat for anyone who's interested in scheduling a free 45-minute call. I do want to make myself available to you for that, for anyone who is interested. And then finally, thank you guys so much. I'd love to connect with all of you on social media. If you scan this QR code right here, the links to my different platforms will pop up: LinkedIn, Instagram, and Facebook. And on all 3 of those, I'm constantly sharing resources on career development, job interview tips, productivity tips, mindset tips. So feel free to scan that and connect with me on the platform of your choice, whichever one you're most active on. And I would love to connect with you guys there. But besides that, I think we'll turn it over for a Q&A.
Great. What a great session, Kate. I love all the practical tips, and I really love the activity, making sure everyone has an action item that they can put into place in the next 3 days. We had a great question come in from Lindsay. Where do you suggest finding networking events?
Yeah, so good old Google is going to be probably your best bet in terms of finding networking events. You can also look on LinkedIn. And you can also search Eventbrite and Meetup. So I'll say those again: LinkedIn, Eventbrite, and Meetup are going to be the best places to look, but just go to Google and look for both virtual and in-person career fairs and job fairs and networking events, and you can see what comes up in your area.
Would that be something where you would bring your resume to, or is it more just like meeting and greeting?
I think it depends on the event. That's going to be a case-by-case situation, right? But by reading the description of the event, you should be able to kind of discern. If it's a job fair or a career fair, yes, definitely bring your resume. But if it's more of just like a mixing, mingling thing, you don't need to bring your resume, but you probably should bring some way that they can get a hold of you, whether that's a business card, or if you have a QR code that they can scan to have your contact information, some way that people can know where to find you.
Okay, great. I'm going to give time for folks to send in some more questions. I don't want anyone to be shy. But I did have a question that we didn't touch on in this session. I wanted to see if you had any thoughts on this. I know at different points of the job interview process, you could be meeting with a hiring manager versus a recruiter. Overall, do you have any comments or feedback on how those interviews differ that could be helpful?
Yeah. So your initial conversation, what I call the pre-interview, is going to be with the recruiter. And those are always interesting because the recruiter wants to be your buddy because they're incentivized when they bring great talent into the company. So they're going to want to be basically selling the company to you. And that's great because they can give you some feedback and some insight into what the rest of the interview process is going to look like. And you should use that. You should ask them for tips. When they say, hey, in your next interview, it's going to be the hiring manager, you can say, great, who is this person? Can you tell me about them? Do you have any tips or feedback to guide the conversation? And they usually are quite helpful. But then as you continue the interview process, it's going to go from the recruiter to the hiring manager. And when it's the hiring manager's turn to interview you, now you're in the mode where you're selling yourself to the hiring manager rather than them selling the company to you. So it does feel kind of like the tables have turned, but that's just the difference in the roles of the recruiter and the hiring manager. So don't be alarmed by that. Like show up ready to sell yourself. Don't be alarmed if the hiring manager isn't buddy with you, although they could be depending on their personality. And then from there, the recruiter will probably stay in contact with you via email, letting you know the next person that you're going to be interviewing, and feel free to take advantage of that relationship with the recruiter and get feedback and advice all the way through the process.
Great. Thank you. Another question that came in, and don't be shy, guys, keep those questions coming. Do you happen to know if the DISC assessment has a cost to it?
So it depends on what you get it through. There's various platforms and people who are licensed and certified in administering the DISC, like myself. I've seen it anywhere from like $100 to I know people who are doing DISC analysis for like $1,000. There is a free version. However, the free version does not come with like the 40-page official report. So if anyone is interested, you can shoot me an email or talk to me. I'm happy to tell you about the way that I do the DISC report. But you can always look online and see what the different options are.
Okay, great.
Yeah.
Let's see here. Any tips for an interview that's like a group interview where there's where you're not in the group, but there's like multiple people from the company in the interview? Any tips for that type of interview that might be different than a one-on-one?
Yeah, panel interviews. Yeah, they can feel quite intimidating. And I would say do your research on the panelists. And you can do that by finding them on LinkedIn. I always encourage my clients to go on LinkedIn and look for the people who are going to be interviewing them. You're probably going to have those names or know who it is going into it. And so get a feel for why they're on the panel, what their position is. And then when it's your turn to ask them questions, it's okay to like call out one of them specifically. Like you can say, Lisa, I know that your role is blank. Can I ask you this question? That's a really good way to engage them and to show that you've done your homework again, which I think is impressive.
Okay. This question has come up on several of the interviews. What's your advice for handling the question on the first interview if you're asked like what your expected salary is?
Yeah. So you should go into the interview having done your homework about what the market compensation is for your location, that field or industry. So you should go into it kind of having done that homework and knowing what a good ballpark estimate might be. I always suggest giving a range rather than just a number. So rather than just saying, this is my expectation, give a range and make sure it's a range that's reasonable based on the homework and the market research that you've done.
Great. And that's a great tip. And I'm going to encourage folks to check out inside the course, the content from the negotiation expert as well. She has a lot of great tips for answering that question, including deflection, as well as a range, kind of how Kate mentioned. Here is a question. And let me go ahead and read it. It says, I recently had an interview with a recruiter who said she was moving me on in the next step of the hiring process. I just got an email stating I fit in well with the company, but not this role. Would it be appropriate to reach back out to the recruiter for feedback on why I didn't have the skills for the role or for future roles?
Yes, absolutely. And I've seen this actually many times in my career coaching work. the recruiter is your friend once again, and they are happy when they find someone who's a good fit. So it's okay to reach back out to the recruiter to get feedback. And it's also a good idea to ask them, what type of roles do you think I would be a good fit for? If this one wasn't a good fit, then what would be? Are there any openings that I should be applying for? And then make a note to check back in with them in a couple months if you're still looking for a position, because they explicitly state if they think you're a good cultural fit for the company, because they want you in a different role. So yeah, go back and ask for feedback and ask if there are any available positions that the recruiter feels like would be a better fit for your skills.
Okay. I'm going to do a last call for questions. I'll give you one more, Kate, and see if any more come in. I know we talk a lot about sending thank you notes, which I know has now kind of in this digital world translated to thank you emails after an interview. But sometimes when we get the Zoom invitations or just the general back and forth to coordinate the interview, if it's digitally, sometimes the email isn't of the person. It's more of a general like info at or recruiting at type of email. And we don't have a personal contact email. How do you approach those situations wanting to send a thank you note?
Two ideas. One, you can ask the recruiter, does this person have a direct email that I can shoot them an email? Sometimes they'll say yes and they'll pass that along. Other times they'll say no. But you can always ask the recruiter if you are able to have that email address. And then you can always find them on LinkedIn. So I recommend anyone who's hiring that you're having a conversation with, or anyone who's interviewing you, find them on LinkedIn even before the interview and connect with them and send them a message. And then you can send that thank you follow-up after the interview via LinkedIn.
Great. And if someone says that you'll hear about the position, let's say you have your interview Wednesday and they set an expectation that you'll hear from us by Friday, what would be an appropriate time to wait if you haven't heard anything to reach back out?
If they say you'll hear from us by Friday and you don't, I would email them on Monday. Because that's going to pass their deadline, right? Like I would give them the full day on Friday, and then I might even wait the first couple hours on Monday morning, so I'm not bombarding them right when they get back from their weekend. But yeah, I think it's appropriate to follow up like one business day after they say, this is when you'll hear back by.
And if they don't give us a specific day to hear back, that we'll hear back from them, how long would you wait to follow up?
So I would specifically ask if they don't give you a time frame, you can say, when should I expect to hear back? And so take some initiative there and specifically ask. But otherwise, I would say 10 days is a good reference, especially for some of these positions that are a little bit slower to hire. 10 days is being generous. Usually it should be earlier than that, but you can always use that as just like a good ballpark benchmark, 10 days.
All right, everyone. Well, so much great information, not only in this session, but the additional conversation with the Q&A this evening. So thank you, Kate, so much for this wonderful, informative session.
Well, friends, that concludes another great coaching session with one of our coaches here at the Teacher Career Transition Academy. You can find more great coaching from this coach and all of our other coaches within the Academy. There are pre-recorded coaching sessions and live coaching options available to help you on your journey. If you want to learn more, I'll drop a link to the Academy in the show notes. For now, stay tuned to our channel for more great content to support you on your teacher career transition. And remember, friends, the journey is just the beginning. Embrace the adventure.